Okay, so yesterday I said I was going to go through some examples. I'll probably go through this a little bit faster than I normally would because you could always go back and review it. Okay, so what we had, the first one we had was 5x plus 2y equals 18. X minus 3y equals 7. I should probably move it over a little bit. There we go. So you could pause the video right now if you want to try it yourself. I'm going to go. So that's the first equation. That's the second equation. I have to decide which variable I'm going to isolate. This one, this one, this one, or this one. The one that's most alone is this one. So I'm going to rearrange number 2. So I'm going to rearrange equation 2. The camera's getting shaky, isn't it? Rearrange equation 2. You know what? I'll move it over to here. We're going to rearrange equation 2. So what we have is, we had, again, I always start off by rewriting it, x minus 3y equals 7. I want to get the x alone, so I'm going to move this over. So x is, it was negative, it becomes positive. 3y plus 7. X is alone, we're isolated. There we go. I call that equation 3. Then I sub that equation, I sub this equation into the one that I didn't use. I rearranged 2, so I'm going to sub it into 1. So I'm going to sub 3 into 1. So equation 1 is 5x plus 2y equals 18. And now it's going to be, but here x was it. So I isolated for x. So now instead of putting it into the y, I'm going to put it into the x. So everything stays the same, except instead of writing x, I'm going to write 3y plus 7. So instead of writing x, I write 3y plus 7 in brackets. Plus 2y equals 18. And then so now what we do now is we algebra it a bit. Multiply. 15y plus 35 plus 2y equals 18. The 35 is going to go to that side. It was plus 35. It's going to go to the other side and become negative because it was positive. So 15y plus 2y equals negative 35 plus 18. 15 plus 2 is 17y. Negative 35 plus 8. Negative 35 plus 18, is negative 17. So now we divide both sides by 17. Chink, chink. And we get y equals negative 1. Right, and then what we do is we sub y equal 1, we sub our answer, but into equation 3, into that one up there. So it goes into equation 3. So x equals 3y plus 7. X equals 3 times 1 plus 7. X equals 3 plus 7, which is 10. And then so what we have is the conclusion, the solution to the linear system, which again is the fancy name for having two equations. Technically, there could be quadratic systems, linear quadratic systems, and many other systems. In grade 10, we're only going to do linear systems. It doesn't matter too much. For now, just consider it to be two equations. So the solution to the linear system is x equals 10, And oh, I made a mistake actually. Let's go back to there and let's see what I did wrong. That should be a -1, and that should be a -1. So that should be -3 plus 7, which should actually be 4. So x equals 4 actually, and y equals -1. And there we go. A fancy way of writing the solution also, you can write it as a point, because when we have a point, points are x and then y. So if you have an x and a y, if it's different letters, you can't do it. But if the letters are x and y, then you could say the answer for here, for example, would be 4, comma, -1. And that would mean that the x was 4 and the y was -1. Okay. Next example. So this would be example 3, I guess, assuming that we were starting it from yesterday. So y minus 2 equals 3x, 4x plus 3y equals 32. I'll label this equation 1. I'll label this equation 2. Which one are we going to get alone? So there's that, there's that, there's that, there's that. That one's mostly alone. The coefficient is 1. There's nothing in front of it. So I'm going to rearrange. Am I on the screen? Yeah. I'm going to rearrange equation 1. So it's going to be y minus 2 equals 3x. Y equals, the -2 goes and becomes positive. 3x plus 2. And we're done. That's y is alone. So that's 3. So I'm going to sub 3 into, I rearranged 1, so I'm going to sub it into 2. 4x plus 3y equals 32. I got the y alone this time, so I'm going to put it in for the y. Instead of y, I write 3x plus 2 equals 32. So 4x plus 9x plus 6, I did some fancy multiplication there, equals 32. 4x plus 9x equals 32. The plus, oops, I went off the screen. 4x plus 9x is 32 minus 6. So 13x equals 26. Chink, chink. X equals 2. So then we're going to sub x equals 2 into equation 3. By the way, these purple things I'm writing, where I'm kind of explaining my steps, I think you should write them as well. I'm not going to mandate it, but it's a really good idea. I find people who write the steps tend to make substantially fewer mistakes. And if you do make a mistake, the marking becomes a lot easier. And easier means you get more marks. So, y equals 3x plus 2. Instead of x, I'm going to write 2, because x is 2. Plus 2, y equals 6 plus 2, y equals 8. And then my conclusion, solution to linear system is 2, 8, which is what was written on the screen from the one I posted. Okay. Which example should I do now? Okay, so example 4. x minus 4y plus 7 equals 0. 2x minus 5y equals negative 8. 1, 2. Which am I going to isolate? This x is looking pretty alone, so I'm going to rearrange equation number 1. So x minus 4y plus 7 equals 0. X equals, the minus 4y becomes plus 4y, the 7 becomes minus 7. And that is equation 3. We rearranged 1, so we're going to sub it into 2. Sub 3 into 2. So again, I start off by rewriting it because that's the way to do it. X becomes 4y minus 7. Minus 5y equals negative 8. Some distribution stuff. 8y minus 14 minus 5y equals negative 8. 8y minus 5y. The minus 14 on this side becomes plus 14 minus 8. So 3y equals 6. Y equals 2. We sub y equals 2 into equation 3. Again, equation 3 is x equals 4y minus 7. X equals 4 times 2 minus 7. So x equals 8 minus 7. X equals 1. And my conclusion is, therefore, solution to linear system is, I'm using some shorthand there, so that means solution, and that's linear system, is, and what's the order? Do I do 1 then 2 or 2 then 1? It's important, of course, it's x then y. So if I was going to do that, if I was going to write it as a point, I have to make sure that it's 1, 2, and not, right? It would not be 2 and 1. Like that would be wrong. How many minutes am I at here? Okay, I have time for one more. I'm gonna make it too long because these things take forever to upload. Oh, definitely this one. I forget what example I'm on, but we'll say it's 5. I'm going to do 5x minus y equals 32, and 3x plus 4y equals 10. So, which one's alone? It's going to be, that one's the most alone. Not alone, not alone, not alone, alone. So I'm going to rearrange equation 1. But there's a trap here. We're going to see. There's a trap. It's not going to work out as pretty. Well, it's going to work out as pretty as before. It's just, there's a catch. So the 5y goes to the other side, but the negative y stays as negative y. So it's minus y, sorry, equals negative 5x plus 32. The y is not alone. It's not isolated yet. What we have to do is we have to deal with it. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to divide everything by minus 1. And then we're going to get y equals positive 5x minus 32. And now it's isolated. As a little side note, what you could have done is you could have, here, I'll do it over here somewhere. When you had the 5x minus y equals 32, you could have brought the y to this side, and then the 32 to this side. So you would have 5x, the 32 becomes minus 32, the minus y becomes plus y. Which turns out to be the same thing as this, right? Either way, it's 5x minus 32. Some people get a little freaked out by the y being on the right instead of on the left. But both ways are fine. You could decide. Okay, back to the main example. So we're going to sub 3 into, which one are we going to sub it into? We rearranged 1, so we'll sub it into equation 2. Equation 2 is 3x plus 4y equals 10. So 3x plus 4, 5x minus 32 equals 10. 3x plus 20x minus, well, maybe I could do it in my head, but y? It's 128. Okay. As a reminder, don't forget the bias calculator. It has to have the same cosine tan. So 23x equals 10 plus 128. 23x equals 138. I hope this works out. 138 divided by 23. Haha, it does. Chunk chunk. X equals 6. So, then we're back to our usual stuff. Sub x equals 6 into equation 3. Equation 3 is y equals 5x minus 32. And y equals 5 times 6 minus 32. Y equals 30 minus 32. Oops, I lost you guys. And y equals negative 2. So therefore, the solution to the linear system is 6 and negative 2. And that's going to be it for today. So the idea is, I would say, start off with those examples. So you see me do it. And then what you do again is you take a new piece of paper, you write this down, and you try to solve it yourself. And I think I'm going to post a worksheet either today or tomorrow. So you could have some practice with this. And that's it. As usual, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to sign in your name in the comments because I don't know who's who, just by the email address. And happy Easter, guys, or a long weekend, or whatever you celebrate. I'm celebrating Passover tonight. So either way, enjoy.